Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast and our show called The Margarita Way to Success. We have a honored guest today. We have our great psychologist, Martine Patterson. Martine is a beautiful psychologist from Australia with over 25 years experience specializing in trauma and injury management. Hello, Martine, how are you?
Hello, Margarita. Well, it's wonderful this morning. It's morning in Australia here, and it's lovely to be talking to a fellow wonderful cocktail.
Wow, yeah. So your name is actually Martini, and my name is Margarita. So it's so wonderful to see Martini and Margarita on the meeting, one meeting. So how did you come up with this name? You actually playing with your name?
Yeah, so I was born as Martine, and I've always got called Martini. And many moons ago, I was a radio host, and the owner of the radio station, the manager, said, "Look, I think the only way we can have this is a martini in the mornings, and you're it." So the name has been with me a long time, and I do like a martini, I do, but yeah, it's been my identity for forever.
It's amazing, and it's catching up. So
It's
oh,
fun.
okay. So
And it's a good icebreaker too, Margarita, because lots of people do ask me, is that actually your real name? And I can explain to them, well, it's a derivation that I've had all my life that I still have a lot of fun with as well.
it's amazing. I love it. I love it. And it's like you said, it's an icebreaker. It's making fun. It's playing. And if we're not playing, it's not worth it. We want to play. So can you tell me with a few sentences, maybe briefly, about yourself?
Oh, about myself. Well, I'm a mum first and foremost. I have gorgeous kitties who I adore. I of course live in the east coast of Australia, which I'm going to let you know is the most beautiful place in the world. When we finish this morning, I'm going to dive into the ocean and have a fabulous ocean swim there and get my autonomic nervous system back into gear. I love helping people and talking to people and learning about people. That's always been something that I've had a passion about, and I love connecting people when things are changing in their lives, to give them a bit of a toolkit for their journey. That's my passion, I guess, in life, and whether that's me as a psychologist or whether it's been through my media as well. I've been doing that for many years now, Margarita. When you said 25, I think to myself,
Over.
I'm not that old, but it turns out I am.
Wow. You're not old. You're always young. You know that. You're Martini. And can you tell me why is your specialization it's in trauma and injuries? What is how did you get there?
How did I get to trauma and injury management? Well, again, I've been specializing in this area for over 25 years, actually. And I was drawn to it personally because I have a lot of, I was born with a lot of medical conditions, and navigating that as a child and a teenager to try and have, the best possible normal life for me was a challenge that was every day. But certainly my father, who has no formal training, was particularly engaged in pain management, in trauma response for, a man coming through the 70s and 80s. I mean, he hands down had knowledge that the medical and psychological field just didn't have, and he was able to provide for me a very normal life despite some of the pretty drastic medical conditions that I had. So when I went along to university, as you do when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, and then I had to make a decision after my undergraduate degree, what would I specialize in? They were the areas that I was particularly interested in, and started working in those areas. Pain management has always been keen interest of mine, and of course, trauma goes hand in hand with that as well. So that they've always been an interest for me personally, and the strategies that I've developed over the many years personally have been able to come into play there. But yeah, as you know, you do pick up a lot of over the 25 years, you learn a lot.
Yes, for sure.
Mm.
It's also a life experience, but it's also you learn from the patients. And this is my next questions. What are the most common fears that you meet around your clients?
Good question. Oh, I think the fears, whether it's my patients or whether it's someone walking down the street or it's my children, myself, I think if we're not conscious about it, we're going to be making fear-based decisions at every point. And some of those that become, survival. We make fear-based decisions whether we're going to be eating today or not because we have to eat. That's becomes a fear-based decision. But I think when someone actually puts up their hand for help and wants and needs guidance, the fear there is usually about the unknown, and whether they're going to be able to cope with the unknown. And I think that is the main fear that people have, is where they're at might be very uncomfortable, but they know it. And I mean, this is why we see particularly women stay in domestic violent relationships for years and years ongoing, because of the fear of leaving a violent situation, that can be violent, in emotionally violent, physically violent, sexually violent, financially violent, all of those. But we'll stay in, and because the fear of moving on is greater into the unknown, is greater than all of that everyday based trauma that's causing
the
her
uncertainty. Yeah, the uncertainty.
Yeah,
For sure. So if you meet a person who actually reached the bottom, and he cannot see the way out, what one of the things you can say to this person?
That's a really good question, because I would say that that would be my first initial consultation with all of my patients, is that virtually they have reached rock bottom. For someone to reach out for help is a big deal for a lot of people. For some people it's quite easy, but for some people, and especially in our Western society, for men to reach out, they have either really hit rock bottom and are quite desperate, or they have been referred by someone else, or someone in their life, whether it's their workplace or perhaps their partner, has said, you have to go and sort yourself out. Otherwise, there's going to be changes in our marriage, in our partnership, in your workplace that you're not necessarily going to like, or it's going to suit you. So often you're faced with someone who has multiple challenges, because fear or trauma or pain, indeed, what I specialize in, is all encompassing. It isn't just about how it sits with you in your body. It's then how you are conducting yourself throughout your life. It determines how you wake up every morning. It's determining whether you're going to feed yourself nourishing food to be able to cope through the day. It's going to determine your relationships with your partner, your children, your family and friends, whether you can reach out to them in support. And of course, it's going to affect you at work, your performance, which then puts you at risk of other issues, such as can you handle your job? Are you going to lose your job? How are you going to financially cope if that happens? How are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to feed your children? So people come when they are at rock bottom, and I think the first part is to acknowledge that they are at rock bottom, and to ensure that they know that this is part of a process, and they're part of steps that you have to go through. And a lot of that we follow through grief steps, whether you want to call it steps or because they can be quite erratic, and not everyone goes through the same steps at the same time for the same length of time. So everyone's journey is very different. But to acknowledge to someone that they are at rock bottom, and to be with them and to hold that space for them is really important. But what I can do is to offer support for them, to say, look, I'm going to be with you while we do this together. We're going to do this together. And when you are unable to plan, to put in goals, you're unable to put down what you think where you need to be, I will be that sounding board for you to help you through that. Let me pick you up when you are falling down a bit, and we can do this as a team. And people are quite relieved that it unburdens not the responsibility, because it will always be their responsibility, but to have someone to say, look, this is a normal part of where you're at. And when you're at rock bottom, the only place that you can go is up from here. And
I love it. I love it. And you actually answered my next question, which is, what is the biggest challenge for people? And I see everybody respond the same. People are afraid to reach for help. It's not only men. I see women as well.
Yes.
Because we are in this, we want to seem so strong and confident, and we're afraid to show our weakness, and it's okay. We all have weaknesses.
Yes. And I think being vulnerable when you are at rock bottom is a huge challenge. It's huge to be out of your comfort zone and to ask for someone for help when you are in such a low place, because we are judged all the time. We are judged about how we look, the job we do, where we live. Everything is a judgment, and potentially tells people whether you are successful or whether you are losing in life. And for you to be able to reach out and be vulnerable is and as a practitioner, you have to really hold that their truth, very carefully, because they're offering you parts of themselves that they possibly have never shown anyone else, and don't even know that was there themselves.
Yeah,
so
that's for sure.
So the space that you have there becomes almost a sacred space that you have together. So there has to be, safety, and you as yourself as a practitioner have to be in a good place yourself for them to unpack that on you. So you can help them through that, but you don't carry it with you. You can, when they leave the session, that is then closed in your folder or wherever you do your notes. You might need to follow up on some referrals for them to a financial counsellor perhaps, or to talk to their doctor or whatever. That's still ongoing. But as a practitioner, you have to be able to have very strong boundaries to be able to cope with some of the issues that are presented to you.
Oh, good. It's I love this takeaways, and actually I want to talk about more the fear of the unknown, and you also mentioned the judgment. Yeah. So if you know that people, all of us have those fears, it doesn't matter if you 10 steps ahead of me or no, each and one of us has those fears. Maybe the levels are different. So what one of the tools you can give to people who has this fear of the unknown or the fear of the judgment. Maybe it's different tools, maybe it's the same tool, but let's listen what you have to say about these tools, because it's really important for all of us. Yeah.
What I find is really helpful for the majority of people is to normalize this, that fear of the unknown, feeling judged, feeling that you're not worthy. These are all the key tenets of our coping skills and how we're going to cope through that. And I think when you explain to people that we all have this spiraling in us, and not everyone has their stuff together. And I think, you know, again, as the practitioner, being vulnerable as well, without disclosing your personal story or your personal information, to explain, look, none of us are perfect here. No one is walking a glorious path to enlightenment. And if they were, I dare say they're delusional with what they're doing, because it's only through stumbling that growth occurs. So wearing those points in time that we do stumble, and being able to get up is really important. So sharing that with my clients and saying, look, when I felt that way, this is how I did it. I wonder if that would help you as well. And being vulnerable to your patient, to enable them to normalize. And I do get a lot of patients who say, you know, oh, my parents, you know, don't approve of my partner, or my parents think I'm a loser, or my friends think I'm a loser because of where I live, or I can't afford to move out, but I want to be independent. All of these judgments that we carry are really, once we see that they are the lens of other people's pillars of how they hold themselves. And until we can decide, is that really something that we want to burden ourselves with? Does it really matter to you where you live? And if it does, let's change that. But what are the steps to get there and do that? And making plans, and seeing how we can accomplish, rather than, you know, feeling that you're kicked in the corner, and that this is an unchangeable aspect to your life. But I think with the judgment is to understand who you feel judged by, and how that is being projected onto you, and whether or not you take ownership of that, whether that's a coat that you want to try on. And that's often a tool that I often say to people, you know, if that was in your wardrobe, this coat of, you know, for instance, your parents' judgment that you left college or university, and is that something that you're going to select for yourself to wear tonight? You know, is that what you want to wear? What else is in your wardrobe that you would prefer to wear tonight? Do you want to have fun tonight and go out? Let's wear that. Do you want to, you know, put on your gym gear and let's go to the gym? You know, let's not wear the clothes that other people are giving to us. And I think once people can understand that there can be a separation of other people's projections, that then they can go on and have more free will to choose how they want to live.
Amazing. And I love that you said being vulnerable. It's so important that we're all human and we need to show our emotions. And emotion, it's not a weakness. It's actually our strength. It's amazing that you actually, when you give those tools, and I loved your analogy to the clothes, the thing that we are wearing, it's what do I wear today? What do I prefer to wear today? Someone else's opinion, or to maybe my own, you know, and what direction do I want to wear it? So it's amazing. And yeah, thank you for sharing this. I would love to hear about your morning routine. And I see that you want to share anything, something else.
Yeah, I was just going to go back on the clothing analogy. That is quite helpful, because we all have to go into our wardrobe, right, every day and decide what are we going to wear. And our wardrobe really does define who we are. Whether we're going to slop around in our pajamas all day, that's fine. That's if that's your mood and that's how you're going to cope today, fabulous, wear it. Are you going to take yourself off to a friend's for dinner? If so, what are you going to wear then? Your clothes often say a lot about you, and often having a refresh can reset where you're at in life. And it's the same with the things that surround you as well in your home. What is holding you down? What is holding you back? And do you need a refresh? Does that actually talk to you, that that piece of furniture or whatever? Do you need to declutter your surroundings as much as you need to declutter your mind? And I think the two often do go hand in hand. That old, saying, a clean desk is a clean mind. And it is proven that is what happens. And if you can't keep a clean desk, are there other things going on? I mean, I'm having a lot of my patients at the moment being diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, then getting on some medication that helps, and it is life-changing for them, absolutely life-changing. But it isn't until you come to a practitioner like myself, be vulnerable, so that I can peel back a few things, poke a few things, and say, hey, what about this? What about that? How about try this? See how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel with these changes. Because ultimately change is what can bring a lot of fear, but change can also be really empowering as well.
Yeah, without change, we cannot improve ourselves. So that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I think we've also got to get into the habit of, when someone says to you, I left my my marriage, or I left my relationship, or I left my job, we've got to start saying congratulations a lot more in those situations. We really have to start saying, well done for getting out of that situation. Let's work on getting a new job, because unfortunately we all have to work and to put food on the table and a roof over our head. But at the same time, instead of saying, oh, that's awful, that's terrible, let's start, congratulating ourselves and other people about leaving bad situations, because that's a really powerful step for people to get to that point and moving on.
Yeah, so there's all kind of situations and difficulties and maybe traumas in people's life. But one of the things that people actually ask me, it's my clients or just friends, they ask me, why you motivate people for action all the time? Yeah. And I'm saying, because I don't believe that people are meant to sit in their pajamas. It's funny that you mentioned pajamas, and watch TV all day. And then they come and they say, yeah, I'm so tired of my work. I want to sit and watch TV all day long. And I say, it will last for 1 month max. And then the calling inside to do something, it will be much stronger than just to sit and doing nothing. And then you want to find the direction of your passion, right? Absolutely. And yeah. I see that you actually such a strong individual, such a strong person. And I know that most of it usually comes from the morning routines. Martini in the morning, or you do have some different things that you do in the morning?
I do. So my morning routines, well, let me go through that. So I am a single mum, and they are my absolute priority all the time, but especially when they are living with me. So I have them 50% of the time. So in the mornings, it's I usually get up before the kiddies do, so that I can have some quiet time to myself. I'm one of these people that gets up with the sun, and usually don't need an alarm. And that comes from many years of when I was a swimmer as a kid and a teenager, where I'd get up at all godly hours and go squad training. So that has remained with me as a very positive way to start the day. And the first thing I do is go and get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and I sit out on my balcony, and I have about half an hour to myself to think about what I need to do for the day. And I don't mean, I've got an appointment at 10 o'clock, I've got an appointment at 12 o'clock. I mean what I need to nourish my soul for the day to get through it. So I might look at social media while I'm on having my cup of tea or cup of coffee. I might actually talk to someone that I know is up early at that early time. And then, of course, when I have my kiddies, it's getting them up and going out to school, which if any parent out there or caregiver knows, that is a challenge and a half. And we try and embrace it every morning. But what I love to do, Margarita, is I actually get up quite early in the mornings and I swim, and I go for a swim, and I find that, and I highly recommend it to anyone who has had a physical injury, physical trauma, and emotional trauma as well, because it does reset our autonomic nervous system. So I'm a great proponent for swimming, because you're forced to regulate your breathing as well, which is really important, as you know, to manage and cope. And so and being in cold water is actually really good for your body as well. And also that mindset that you're doing something for yourself as you're putting on your swimmers, as you're getting in the car maybe, or walking to your beach or your pool or wherever you might be going. That act of it's a self-care routine, that you're doing this because it makes you feel good, and you know that it will help you function better throughout the day. And you don't have to have huge, goals. You can swim to half an hour, or you can set a couple of kilometers what you want to do, and then when you come out, you have achieved that for the day. And that's what I find is the best way for my morning routine, so that then I can come back home, shower, and prepare myself for I have a morning radio show, so I'll start engaging with that, and then I have patients in the afternoon and enjoy doing that.
Can you already touched this point, but I want to emphasize this point. So our daily behavior, our daily habits, is it helpful in overcoming fears?
Our daily habits, I think so. I think having a routine and habits are important, especially if we cycle back to what we were talking about before. When we're not coping, when we are at rock bottom, the only thing that we can revert to is routine, and have that routine. And I think when you do have a routine even listed, put it up on the fridge, I get up at this time because I have a meaningful life. I might not be working at the moment, I might be in pain, whether that's, psychologically or physically or both. But my life has meaning, and it has meaning to other people. And, I am a ripple in the ocean, and what I do affects other people. So making sure that you have routine, especially when you're unable to cope about things. And it can be as simple as, I'm getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to have breakfast. And I think some of those, the days that you are coping, have you ever heard of having spoons that you, when you are not coping well, you have low spoons, which means that you don't have the capacity or the energy or the mind space to be able to say, for instance, this is more in preparing food. So when you do have a few spoons, that you prepare food in advance. so that when you have a low spoon day, a day where you're not coping, you can just go along and pick out something that's easy. So having a routine or lists, and I suggest popping them on your fridge perhaps, to have suggestions. What is an easy go-to for breakfast? It's going to be healthy, nutritious, and feed you through the day. And then having something that's going to be meaningful for you, in that period, whether you go for a walk, that's really important. Whether you go and meet a friend for a coffee, perhaps, that's really important. But to every day to have a routine, I think is important for a lot of, and if they don't have the routine, it can be quite anxiety provoking as well. And for the other people around you as well, especially if you're in a family situation, that being, sporadic can cause a lot of anxiety in other, members of the family. So trying to get that cohesiveness is important, and being your own leader, being the boss in your life.
Once you start something, you take in control and you take in responsibility. This is for sure. And one of the things that I actually also mentor people, it's to, like you said, put it on the refrigerator, the most visible place in the house maybe, but also to write your goals. Once you write your goals, you feel like a winner, right? This is what
working, yes, you know where you're going, you're walking towards something, because you wouldn't necessarily hop in your car with a tank full of gas and just drive randomly. Some people do, and some people like that, and good luck to them. I probably don't see them in my counseling sessions, because that is their way of coping. They're not a personality that I would necessarily see. But in general, people just don't hop in a car and just drive. And we shouldn't be doing that in our own lives. It's just, driving along a road, stopping off at a dirty old, we call them service stations, you call them gas stations, but you wouldn't stop off and then, have a hot dog, when you feel like it. We wouldn't be encouraging that kind of life for most people, and no judgment for people who feel that is a great life. There's lots of people doing van life now, but generally I'm not going to be seeing those people with those coping mechanisms in my practice rooms at all.
This actually leads us to next question. So if there is one thing you can wish to all the people in the world.
Oh my gosh, one thing to people. I that's
drink more martini. No. In the morning.
One thing that I wish for every person in the world is, I think, is to speak your own truth, is to be able to not hold on to the shoulds that you were brought up with, because they ultimately do line your path of life. And whether, again, going back to that analogy of wearing the coat, whether it's your coat to be wearing is another story. So I guess for people around the world is to learn your own truth and what is important for you. And if it means leaving important relationships that are toxic to you, then you have to work out your boundaries and how large your boundaries are going to be in ensuring that you are in a safe place. And I encourage people to explore some of the toxic relationships that they do have in their life. Because there is a common theme with that when I do see people, is that they are still attached through usual obligation and social contracts, because they're your parents, or that's your mother, or that's your child. These social contracts that the binds are very strong, but we can't change people around us, but we can change the people around us, right? So we can decide, we are in control then of who we let in our life and what impact they have with us. And as you know, there are tools that we can use to minimize that that impact that other people have with us. And I think exploring that those impacts are really important in our life, and for us to be active in managing those relationships. Especially, you've just had Thanksgiving over in the States, and all of the stuff that's attached to that, and then Christmas is coming up as well, and all of those holidays that we associate around this time of families coming together, and the trauma that this holiday season brings to people is far outweighs often the positive that should be in them. And it really does break my heart leading up into, you know, in Australia we predominantly celebrate Christmas, and I know obviously around the world there are lots of other celebrations around this time or at any time of the year. But in the lead up to this, of this manic consumerism of buying gifts and buying the right kind of gift and spending a lot of money on it, that's been dictated by the commercial consumerist world out there of just pure greed, then, you know, having to make plans with family that people just don't want to engage with, that members who are toxic, members who are abusive, and introducing then your children into that, and almost creating a generational trauma again. And this is a really tough time of the year for a lot of people, and I challenge people to think about their level of engagement in these activities and whether they need to be at such high level connection with people that don't bring them happiness.
Yes, yes.
Because
And also one of the things also that I will add to what you say, it's actually that we are waiting for these holidays to be nice to each other, but we can do it every day.
the concept.
And we celebrate Hanukkah. So, you know, I'm from Israel, so we celebrate Hanukkah. It's also the holiday of light. But do I need to wait for the holiday to be nice, to bless someone, to say happy holiday?
Yes. I mean, we should be taking from these holidays, festivals, or religious events you know, you know, I'm coming from you know, a white Anglo-Christian Australian background here, where our holidays were just planted on pagan holidays, essentially. But the spirit of them is what you're talking about, is what we should be embracing every day. And you know, that would be my wish for everyone. If everyone could have a bit of Hanukkah or Christmas or Diwali in them every day, and spread that, be that ripple effect in the world, that would be fabulous, instead of leaving it for a Christmas gift under a tree. It's just
yeah, for sure. You're such an inspiration, Martini. It's amazing to hear everything that you share here, and I'm sure that our audience will want to connect with you. Can you give us some inspirations over your social media where we can connect with you, and what is holding the future for Martini?
Well, yes, I mean, you get my handle on everything is at martini.mornings, on Insta or Facebook or Twitter or all of those things. You can get in touch with me there. Interestingly, I do Zoom appointments all over the world as well, and can connect to people in that way. You don't just have to be here on the sunny east coast of Australia to talk with me. I'm more than happy and open to talk with anyone. But what's in the future for me? Well, me myself, I've had some pretty big changes in my health. So I am now amazingly healthy. It's taken a long time to get to this point. I'm, now I've been challenged with breast cancer for 24 years, for half my life. And now that it is over, which it was over in March, and now I can, live a full functioning life. Which is fabulous for me. It's fabulous for my children and my family, and those I hold dear in my life. But it also means I can be better engaged with other people, whether that's me as a practicing psychologist, and whether on my radio show, in reaching other people and allowing them to connect with their true, authentic self without it sounding wishy-washy, but to be able to connect them and hopefully give them plant some seeds so that they can go away and think about things. That's my aim, I guess.
Amazing. And I celebrate you and your health, and I can feel your joy, and it's amazing. And I'm so glad for you and the people around you to celebrate you. Thank you again so much for your time, for being here with us. And I'm so happy to be with you here. And I'm waiting for our future collaborations. Thank you so much, Martini.
Margarita, well, I'm off to the beach now, and I'm hoping that you in San Diego can do something wonderful today as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Margarita.